Hi, welcome to the Quipster Film Review Podcast. My name is Vince Leo. I am the author of the film review website, Quipster.net. I invite you to check out over 4,000 of my written reviews. You can read there anytime. Quipster.net is where to go. While you're there, I do encourage you to look for the link for my other podcast called Around the World in 80s Movies, where I cover, of course, films of the 1980s. I just finished my 100th episode, a milestone for me. And that's 100 different movies that I've covered in full. Some 20, 25-minute reviews there you can listen to anytime. Quipster.net is where to go for that link. QWIPSTER.net. Today I'm going to be looking at a film that's brand new out in theaters. It is in a limited run, though, so you may not necessarily have this near you. However, being that it is done by Amazon Studios, I assume if you have Amazon Prime, it'll probably end up there eventually. It is called Brittany Runs a Marathon. It is an R-rated film. It does have sexual humor, language, drug use, and a scene of sexuality. The runtime is 1 hour and 44 minutes. Jillian Bell is the main star. Michaela Watkins, Micah Stock, Utkarsh Ambudkar, Lil Ray Howery, and Alice Lee are in the supporting roles. Downs Colaizzo is the director. He also provides the screenplay. Now, Jillian Bell here, she's starring as Brittany Forgler. Brittany is a broke, down-on-her-luck woman. She's in her late 20s. She moved from Philadelphia to New York to pursue this career that didn't quite pan out for her. Her quest for success doesn't really motivate her so much as dropping out for fear of failure. She has a job she's ill-suited for at the theater. She's overweight. She spends a lot of her time living in the shadow of her perky and pretty roommate, Gretchen. She goes to clubs where she buries her feelings into this toxic combination of drinking and drugs and casual sex and a lot of less than healthy food. She ends up going to the doctor to try to score some Adderall, and that leads her to discover that her weight has really kind of gotten away from her, to the point where it's beginning to affect her health, both physically and mentally, and it's only going to get worse if she doesn't take care of it. She needs to lose about 50 pounds or so to avoid further health issues of this BMI that happens to be in the obese range. Now, due to the high cost of joining a gym without a lot of income to spend, Brittany begins jogging for exercise, just needs a pair of shoes and go outside and run. She starts with a trip around the block, but discipline ends up being a challenge, and it's always been for Brittany, and she also has a hard time putting herself out there for the world to see. She soon joins a club for runners in the city along with her soon-to-be divorced neighbor named Catherine, played by Michaela Watkins, and there's also this newfound running friend, Seth, played by Micah Stock. She even gets a new job dog sitting for some well-to-do types who are away for long periods, where she meets this ultimate slacker coworker in Jern, played by Utkarsh Ambudkar, who convinces Brittany to squat in their employer's abode. To keep her motivated, she and her friends set out to compete in the New York City Marathon, but to do that requires the kind of discipline that Brittany's never known up to that point in her life. There's a lot more to the details of Brittany Runs a Marathon, but I'll let you enjoy that for yourself when you watch the movie. Although we aren't really told this until the very end of the film, Brittany Runs a Marathon is a dramedy that's inspired by the actual story of this woman named Brittany. Actually, her name is Brittany O'Neill, not Forgler, as in this film. Brittany O'Neill happens to be writer-director Downs Colaizzo's friend. He's known since college, a former roommate of his, but her story and that of Brittany Forgler, they're not quite the same in terms of what happens there. There's no specific scene of this movie that comes from events in O'Neill's real life per se, but the story is mostly an interpretation of her journey as a 20-something woman trying to find this niche in the world, and running became the linchpin, the focus for discipline that helped her to also have the internal strength to achieve success in the other areas that she had also thought she needed tending to. Now, this is not a film about just trying to overcome body image challenges. Brittany's problems are compounded by each other. She also struggles with money and with love and with friendship and finding a general direction in life. All of her ailments, including the weight, seem to stem from this lack of drive, her focus, self-esteem, discipline she does not have. Losing weight alone is not going to be enough because without taking care of all of these basic things, she's just going to put the pounds back on. And that means no more nights clubbing, no more debauchery, no potential other pitfalls that may cause her to settle back into her old habits. And while this may strain her relationship with others, Brittany won't be able to maintain healthy relationships anyway until she can establish a better relationship with herself. Now, in her first lead role in a feature film, I think Jillian Bell gets to stretch out her acting chops into some dramatic moments. She has been used in the past mostly for her penchant for memorably zany improvisational comedies in bit roles in films. Her take on Brittany here feels her most fully realized. She jokes as this means of deflecting conversations. She tries to avoid having to show any kind of vulnerability or reveal something about herself to others. She channels her inner sense of low self-esteem and doubts about herself, and that propels her character into someone instantly relatable to us because we all have our own insecurities that we can identify with. They may not be exactly the same, but certainly there are things that cause us to think twice. Now, part of the reason that Brittany is so low on herself is that she thinks everyone around her is just so much happier. Of course, that stems from how people portray themselves online or in person. People can hide all of those things about themselves that they don't want to be known by others. And it's only when Brittany manages to have some regard for herself that she begins to see how people do hide their pain in drugs or sex or food in order to forget, even if it's just for a moment, that thing that is causing a thorn in their side. But then she also has to confront her own judgments of others, as well as her own feelings of envy for not having everything that she's ever dreamed of in life. Now, while Brittany Runs a Marathon may not be a landmark film in any particular regard, it does score up enough laughs and these themes to think about that makes it a worthwhile viewing for most viewers. It's also accessible for reasons beyond just those who have ever had to diet or exercise to lose a substantial amount of weight. This is not a weight loss film per se, even though that is a part of it. It will even prove to be an inspirational film for many viewers who may feel like they're just in a life rut. This might provide a kickstart to motivate you and me on how we often can and should do something about those parts of ourselves that seem to be holding us back from enjoying our lives. Or in some cases, just embracing those parts. Maybe we can't do a lot about it. Maybe we should just be happy with who we are, regardless of what others may judge about us. Oftentimes, these things that keep a person from achieving their goals are compounded by others. It's a little like trying to juggle. If you take care and try to keep a balanced approach, things work well. But if you don't pay attention to just one of those items, it can cause them all to fall. Colaizzo's film is very nicely cast. It draws out some good dramatic scenes from this troupe of improvisational comedians mostly, including Lil Ray Howery as Brittany's brother-in-law and sometimes mentor in life. It's a bit of a loose-hanging narrative structure. It's not a very tight film, but it does have some noticeable but not overbearing tonal shifts that occasionally mute either the comedy or drama that Colaizzo seems to be striving to achieve on a scene-to-scene basis. But I think that one refreshing aspect is that it dives headfirst into social media as the root cause of many of the problems with self-esteem and happiness. It's easy to feel like you're not achieving in pace with your peers when all you see on social media are these people posting the happy moments, these milestones in their lives, vacations, buying cars, buying homes, having children, a lot of other notable announcements that all you see. You just scroll through your Facebook wall or what have you, and you just see all of this happiness. Of course, few bother to post about mundane or things that make themselves look bad, so there's never a sense through scrolling through all of that anyone has a boring life or any of the problems, even though, of course, we all experience these things, even at our happy moments. Now, as millennials have grown up in this internet culture of doing things just to get likes, Brittany Runs a Marathon questions the value in attributing self-worth only to the approval of others. Once you stop worrying about winning the popularity contest among your peers and you seek more to win self-respect for yourself, that's when you can finally achieve contentment in being the person that you actually want to be without perpetually painting this plastic picture of popularity on Instagram or any of these other social platforms. As with the marathon at the heart of the story, sometimes winning is not about coming in first, but rather simply accomplishing the things that you set out to do and at your own pace. So that's why I do think that ultimately Brittany Runs a Marathon does succeed at being a winning comedy drama, and that's why I'm going to give it 3 stars out of 4. 3 stars on my scale means that I do recommend it for people who like this kind of movie. If you're looking for kind of a comedy with a lot of dramatic elements that has something more to say than just making you laugh, I think you're going to find some worthwhile material here, and you probably will come away feeling a little bit inspired to take care of something that may have been nagging you in your life at the very end of it. So it is recommended with 3 stars out of 4. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you end up seeing Brittany Runs a Marathon, I would be interested in hearing what you have to say. You can find my contact information at my website. That's at quipster.net, QWIPSTER.net. Until next time, thanks everyone, and please enjoy your time anytime you get to go to the movies.